first Africa Biodiversity Summit. But joining us right now on this conversation is the Commissioner from the Afican Union, His Excellency Moses Vilakati, and we are going to be talking to him just to understand the role of the Afican Union in this platform and many other thoughts that he has, especially in the conversations that we are seeing and hearing right here in this convening. Commissioner, thank you so much for joining us. Good morning to you.
Good morning, my brother. How are you?
I'm very good, Commissioner. Thank you so much for giving us the time to talk. All right. Maybe let's start our conversations just by understanding the significance of this moment.
Biodiversity is very key in Africa. The heads of state and government met in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, during the AU Assembly, and realized that there was a need for a biodiversity summit. Since there had been none before, they said, let's have the first one. And we are therefore grateful for the government of Botswana, and the president and the cabinet and all the Botswanas for having agreed to host this inaugural biodiversity summit. As you know, biodiversity is about everything. It's from water, forest, wildlife, you name it. And it's all getting extinct in Africa, which is a huge challenge. If it's not about wildlife being poached through illegal hunting, if it's not about wetlands drying up, if it's not about deforestation. By the way, when it comes to forests, that's where we get our medical supplies.
Yes.
So the moment you don't have it, how are we going to survive? So this is very, very significant. And for that matter also because it's the first of its kind. So for generations to come, they will be saying during the inaugural biodiversity summit in Botswana, in the city of Gaborone, this is what we agreed. So we hope that when the declaration is out there, then it will be talking to the reality of the African people when it comes to wildlife. You know, some of them rely on it for firewood, others for medicinal purposes, etc., etc. So all of this is part of what we are. Hence the significance of this summit, which I believe will be very, very successful.
We're very excited as a country to be given the opportunity to host the very inaugural one, as you're talking about. I was just part of a number of conversations from yesterday, this morning, the side events. I'm listening to conversations around biofinance. I'm listening to conversations from colleagues in the corridors talking about how significant this moment. We're talking about how Africa has been participating in this conversation all over the world, but the way we were sort of like mobilizing to contribute to such conversations, it's like every country was just going there for themselves and not Africa as a unitary voice. Is that something that is any truth to?
There is truth in it because as Africa, we have been going there as kind of individual corners. Part of what we would like to see in here is that as we move forward, for example, we'll be moving to Brazil for the COP30, we want a unified African voice on the issues that affect Africa. Because what you'll find is that some of the people that debate on Africa issues, diversity, you name it, they don't even have and they don't even understand and appreciate what Africa is going through. A month ago, we were in United Arab Emirates, and there was a huge discussion related to wildlife, for example, where usually there is no common agreement You look at your elephants in Botswana, Zimbabwe, etc., which are now even affecting the communities where they are meant to serve. You look at some of the parks where the community are saying, hey, you took our land, etc., etc. So we need to have an appreciation of this. But but on the wildlife, for example, we need to come with a common voice. There are those, for example, who are saying, hey, with rhinos, horns, which are becoming a problem. I mean, people just kill the whole rhino just for the horns. And African countries are saying, why don't we dehorn? For example, this is like we do with our cattle. Yeah. You go to your cattle post, you dehorn them every now and then. But those from outside of Africa who do not appreciate this, they think, no, you're creating a market, another market, and yet to maintain this wildlife, for example, I just took that example, it's very expensive. And yet if, for example, Africans were to sell some of these horns, etc., to generate revenue. The other one is on how to actually finance biodiversity, which is really a huge problem. We do have the green climate funds, etc., etc. But we find that the funding on biodiversity, it's just not yet there. There's no traction as yet. And yet when you look at the bioeconomy, it's the one that runs the world. So the issue of financing is a problem. Even on climate change, still what was pledged by the West and what we are now getting as Africans, for example, is a trickle down. And yet, pledges were into trillions of dollars or even bullets. So, which is something that we need to push hard for. The negotiations on climate change, which is part of biodiversity, is also having some pushback, with some countries saying, hey, by the way, there's no climate change.
Yeah, I had the statement 2 days ago.
So we need, therefore, as Africans, particularly the negotiators, they need to be empowered to make sure that we can now negotiate as one voice. But also, if all of us as Africa can just come together and say, this is the position that we're taking, we will be able to attain what we want. When you get there, you find that some other African countries, they end up following the paths of some of the Western countries. And yet, what we're saying is, let's go there with one voice. This becomes an African voice for the benefit of Africa.
Such incredible thoughts, Commissioner, and thank you so much for bringing those out. I think you also even echo some of the thoughts that I've had in the rooms I've been in, listening to conversations around the importance and the value behind just unifying our voice as Africans, especially around harnessing the very essence of the blessing that we have as Africans. Mm-hmm. We need to make sure that in taking care of it, the commercial viability of it, also the sustainability part of it, from financing, from all of this, is something that we sit and agree as Africans as to how do we go forward from here. And it's really a blessing to hear you talk about it in that regard. I don't know if I'm leaving anything behind from this conversation, maybe that you'd like to share as your final thoughts as we publish.
But my parting shot would be, let Africa unite. If we're united, we will achieve more. Once we're disintegrated, it's easier, therefore, to divide us. At AU, we've spent some time trying to capacitate the African group of negotiators, because we believe once they are capacitated, then they should be able to look at the ins and outs of what Africa is about, and also looking at how they can unite various countries, because these negotiators are coming from the regions, coming from the various countries. So that, to me, is very, very key. If we can do that, if we can achieve that, I think we will be able to have a bioeconomy that is sustainable, to support our future generations, because we're keeping these for future generations. It's no longer for us. Now that we're here, let's look at it from a futuristic point of view. I'm finally, once again, thank you very much, Botswana. This is not an easy task, but looking at what is the debates that are happening, I think we'll achieve more.
Commissioner, thank you so much for this conversation. I think it was very insightful, and thank you so much for the commitment to continue to reinforce, especially like what you're talking about now, future thinking. How does Africa look like 100 years from now in the context of biodiversity? And the declaration that we are hoping to see very soon, I do believe that it speaks to that, and I do believe that it's a step in our direction. And I hope that next time I see you, there'll be a lot of more impact that we see. And thank you for choosing Botswana for this platform.
No, I really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
All right. So there you have it at exactly 11:17 your time, which is station of choice. And at Boyalaria at the first African Summit on Biodiversity, we're speaking to the Commissioner from the African Union. You will remember, as we always talk about it every Thursday on Tour de Afrique, the importance of coming together as Africans to build the Africa that we want, which is Agenda 2063. And I want to encourage you to look out for more conversations and more insights that will be coming from here. Thanks so much, DJ Gomez. I do believe that you and I will touch base soon.